Okay. Good morning, folks. And it'll come. Continuing with the Maimon, the Hasidic discourse. So we've spoken about how the soul, there's a hierarchy, if you will.
So what are they going to do about that thing from on?
And there's a hierarchy in that there's that which transcends. This transcendent part of the soul is the will the person has. The integrated part of the soul is the intelligence and the emotions. And from your will, you come down to it gives you the capacity to use your mind properly. And focus the mind, bringing it into the emotions. That the emotions, there is where our refinement takes place. That reflects God's also levels of come down and drawing down through blessings from the way God has transcended the Tetragrammaton, Shem Havaya, the name of Havaya, bringing down then, drawing down from there into God's immanence in this world, and within the world itself, he's king. And what are you king over? Things that are separate from you, right? So God's rulership is shown by the material things, of our lives that are animated by klipa, right? The shell that covers over the divine, and therefore they have their own independent sense of independence that they could be used for divine purposes or for self-oriented purposes. And there's the refinement as a result in the world. In the person, the refinement is in the emotions, right? When you get triggered, it's your emotions that get triggered. And our emotions we need to own. You can't say, you made me feel that way. If you're going to be, honest person. Someone else, by the way, by the same thing that happened, might not get triggered and have the same emotion. But that's the emotion that you have. That's your trigger. Means you need to own it. You need to own that. That doesn't absolve the other person for what they, might have said or did. That's not the point over here. The point is how we respond is based on our emotions and how we feel about it and how we got triggered. So that's something we need our refinement, right? So in the person, refinement is going to be in the emotions. In creation, the refinement is in the world out there. And the things that we have of that world that, that we use it to make, for a higher purpose. Now, so, in this understanding, there's a hierarchy of things. Now we're going to come to another understanding. So there's something more. So since the drawing down of the so um, yeah, okay, so there's another approach that ultimately drawing down godliness into this world is the ultimate purpose that God wants a dwelling place in this world. In other words, by drawing godliness into the world and into me, my world, in other words, yeah, drawing it into me, into my world, is the ultimate purpose is to draw it down. And you fulfill the purpose of Atmos, of the essence of God and his and every aspect. So from this perspective, there is no higher or lower. There is no infinite and finite. Everything's equal. What does that mean? Let's understand the distinction. There's an equanimity that results of this point of view. In the first point of view, there's a higher and a lower. So there's, an avodah, divine service. So you deal with the holy things. Right? What's the holy things? Like we're doing now, learning. Right? Learning is not is more the intellect of the person rather than the emotions. It's a higher element of the individual. Also, when it comes to the world, the higher element is learning as opposed to dealing in the physical mundane world. So dealing with the physical mundane world is a come down. Now, as we said, the come down, you gain from it because every descent is in order to have a greater ascent. But there is a concept of a come down, right? That's the first way of looking at things. The second way of looking at things, there's no higher, there's no lower. There is no infinite and finite. It's all the same. What do you mean it's all the same? For what God wants, right? The first one is based on me and my service. So there's a higher service, a lower service. More sublime service and lesser. Um, there's let's give an example, right? There's doing for your parents right? Honoring them, where there's a distinction between, you know, simple thing like, getting them a glass of water when you're with them. Then there's a big thing that you spend 3 hours taking them to a doctor's appointment in the middle of the day. Oh, that's that's much bigger, right? So from the person who's doing it, the child that's doing it for the parent, they're giving much more of themselves, right? In the 3 hours that they spend, you know, in the middle of the day taking their parent to an appointment, a doctor's appointment, as opposed to getting them a glass of water. That's from the vantage point of the person who's doing it. There's a higher, there's a lower, there's a greater, there's a lesser, which makes sense. But from the vantage point of the recipient, in the moment, right, there is no difference between higher and lower. Right now, your mother or your father needs a glass of water. And that's important to them that moment. The breakdown over here, of course, is in, parent, in human condition. There's a big difference between just go fetching a glass of water for a parent, as opposed to taking them to the doctor's appointment in the middle of your work day, right? Big difference from a human perspective, but from the perspective of the will of the person in the moment, there's no difference. They need this now and they need that later, right? There's no difference. In effort, there's different, maybe, but from the perspective of the desire of the parent, no difference. They want this now, and when they want that later. So from the perspective of God, he wants a dwelling place for him in this world. So he wants it with, not such sublime things like, you know, um, making a blessing on some water. And he wants it with something very lofty and, that you sat for a whole hour and learned Torah with no interruptions and focus, and you were, totally giving yourself over. One's simple, one's more sit for a whole hour, focus, right? Nothing else exists except you're learning. Whoa, from a human perspective, that's a lot more, right? A lot more demanding, a lot more work. But from the perspective of what God wants, he wants the blessing when you're got that cup of water to make the blessing. He wants that focus in the learning, total focus. Just the same. Each one is, about what God wants in order that in this world we make a dwelling place for him. And in that respect, there is no difference between higher and lower. And therefore, a simple thing like making a blessing is not a simple thing. And it's not like, a come down to deal with the physical world. It's not a come like, I'm, a lofty soul and I'm, dealing in lofty things. It's like, you know, When I have guests at the house, so I serve them. Sometimes people are like, Rabbi, sit down, I'll take care. Oh, my mitzvah. Achnasas orchim. Right, last week's Torah portion. It's my mitzvah. Yeah, but your mitzvah is to teach. You teach, your mitzvah is to bring. That's your mitzvah. No, my mitzvah is what God wants. And right now, you're my guest here. He wants me to serve you and to, take care of your physical material needs. And that's no less than teaching you. It's not a lower thing that, you could get anybody to do that. You could even hire, someone to do the service. And sometimes maybe you need to do that because of, got a lot of people and, that helps take away some of the stress. We've had that, there's a lot of people invited. So there might be just too much of a stress. And sometimes it's, needed that I'm staying at the table to make sure everybody at the table is taken care of. So, okay, fine. Doesn't mean that you can't have someone. That's not the point. The point is my attitude to serving someone at my table is not like a come down, oh, rabbi, No, it's a mitzvah. This is a mitzvah, and that's a mitzvah. This is what God wants. He wants me to teach. That's my mitzvah in that moment. And now he wants me to serve. That's my mitzvah right now. From God's perspective of what he needs from me, right, to make a dwelling place in this world, no difference. There isn't a higher or lower from the core essence of God. Now, what comes out of this? So, going back to our, mention, what does God want from you? Right? We say, what does God want from you? So don't read, what does he want? Read 100. What he wants from you is 100 blessings, right? So in Hebrew, the word what is ma, right? And the word 100 is meya. So the Rebbe explains, you play on these words over here. The word ma, what does he want? He wants your ma. You know what ma means? Menachnu ma. Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu says, what are we? In other words, that's the idea of bittul, right? Not full of yourself. The idea of self-effacement, humility. What are we? Yeah. Just dealing with somebody who, you know, uh, in a relationship, they, they give everything. They're like, they're amazing in what they do in the relationship. And, their spouse, oh, doesn't provide for me, but anybody says something like that, I'm there for you for everything that you need. Really? Wow. Must be an angel, not human. When they say that about, and then they put down the other at the same time, of course, right? Um, right. No humility. What are we? Fine. Yeah. Humility. From that humility, what does God want from you? He wants your humility. And from that humility, then you have 100. 100 in Hebrew, Meya, you add the letter Aleph. Aleph represents God. the oneness of God. That's what you have. With humility, then you can do the greater thing and the lesser thing, not thinking of the lesser thing to being lesser and the greater thing being greater. No, they're both important. And you do it equally with great devotion. Not when it comes to learning Torah, oh, that's great. But it comes to something else, you do that. It's not so important. So, you don't have the same passion for it and the same vitality. And that's normal. That's the first way that we spoke about. There's a higher and a lower. Okay, you still need to go into the world and deal with the lowness of this world to bring, some sanctity there. The second level that we're speaking about over here, this higher level, that's not the attitude you have. Because it's not about you and your, the things that you like and the things that you don't like so much, but you got to deal with. Things that, are things that talk to me and things that, okay, listen, still got to do it. Right? Torah learning talks to me, but, serving another person, that's from the human perspective. That's from the individual, from the human condition. But from the perspective of God and what he needs and wants, there is no difference. I want the cup of water now, and I need to go to, to the appointment later. So the attitude that the person has that they're both the same divine will that you are fulfilling comes only from a humility that a person can have. It's not about me. It's what I'm needed for. And therefore, there's no small, there's no big. It's all the same. And the truth is, before God, when I have the ma in me, then I receive the meya, the 100, the aleph that's added to the word 100, the oneness of God, the core essence of God is added to me and is revealed to me in my divine service that will reveal in me the core of me, the essence of me. And the essence of me, higher and lower also, there's no such thing. All there is a fulfillment of the divine will, which is the main point of all divine service. Shh, very powerful. All right, folks. We'll see you soon. Thank you for joining. All right.